The burning question. We're still going to talk about fit-CVIT, so one moment. Okay, can you see that slide? Okay. Look, there's Paul. He's not here, but he's here on a photo. Okay. Let's continue talking about it since you guys are thinking about it. Fit and CVIT distributions. So as Fred said, you may be deposited into any fund maintained by the taxing unit. Okay, that's the new statutory change. Funds can be used for any legal purpose. Information you guys already know. Units must ensure proper tracking to avoid audit issues, okay? Now, during audit, this is where our guidance is going to come into play about where to put the funds, okay? So the county must be able to identify the fund receiving the distributions. So if the county opts to put it in the general fund, no formal action is required, okay? However, if you opt to put it in another fund, the legislative body must identify the fund via ordinance, resolution, or vote. So, you opt to just put it in general fund and do nothing else. It goes into general fund. However, if your county says, no, we want to put it in another fund, for audit purposes, you have to somehow either, whether you vote at a public meeting and it's in the minutes, you do it via ordinance or resolution, that's the audit documentation as to where the funds are going. Okay, because during audit, our question will be, where did you receipt those funds into? If we see them go into the general fund, okay, you don't need to do anything further. However, if you decide to put them elsewhere, we would expect to see the legislative body say, hey, this is where we're going to put it. Here's the audit documentation to support those deposits into that fund. Clear? Okay. And I'm just curious, how many counties are just going to put it in general fund? Okay, makes the most sense. Even Fred County is going to do it. He raised his hand, which it makes the most sense to me. So do we have any questions on this? We just wrote an examiner or a bulletin article that went out in the September one regarding this. So for some reason you guys can't find this slide ever again, we have the bulletin article in the September bulletin that details all of this with the statutory authority and our audit guidance. Okay?
Can I add?
Yes, where are you? Hi, oh,
Down front.
you stole my seat. Yes, talk
steal
about
your
the
seat.
Form 22.
Huh? Well, before that.
Okay.
So the only thing I want to add is, it says that you can use it for any legal purpose. What fund can you historically is for any legal purpose? General fund. If your county chooses to put it in a special revenue fund, it is now tied to the purpose of that special revenue fund. It loses its any purpose, okay? Because it falls into fund accounting. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. There's no way to track it individually in like a, one of your other special funds to know that that's just fit-CVIT amount that you can use for anything. There's no way. So if your county opts to put it in any other fund, it now becomes that fund and can only be used for those purposes. Clear? Okay.
So the county really needs to decide if they want it to be restricted for a use. And that's maybe something that you guys should talk about locally. And Fred is pointing to somebody who they don't have their, oh, over here.
Have a hand up? Okay, let me work my way up. I don't know who I'm, okay.
I don't know. So you asked how many counties plan to put it in general fund. So it is our decision as auditor if we put it in general fund, or do we have to ask the council if they want to put it in general?
The legislative body is responsible for making the decision.
So it's not just our decision to put it in general. They have to decide that part as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And let's be clear, the legislative body in most counties is your commissioners.
Yes.
Some counties it's different, but for most it's your legislative body. And yours, it's commissioners. Okay?
And we know that that's a little weird. That's why.
That was a big question in our office. They are saying that the attorney is saying that the legislative body is the council, and it was never that way before. Stark.
So if you are curious, statute specifies which counties the legislative body is the council. I do not believe it's Stark.
Okay.
Mostly it's like, I think St. Joe is one of them. I can't remember. Marion's one of them. There's like 4. I want to say like,
Why do I want to say Lake?
I did too, but then I was hesitant.
Vanderburgh?
So there is only like 3 or 4.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
not very
everybody else it's commissioners, and those 3 or 4 are big ones.
Yeah.
So I saw a hand.
Ricky, we got one right here.
I got one here. There was one there too. Somebody back there? Maybe they were stretching.
So my question is this, we're on a different fiscal year, so we got the money in with June, and this was not in place yet. So we divvied it up between all of the funds that we always do. We can't do that with the December money unless we pass a resolution? Okay, so we basically just have to put it in general, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Can they put it in any fund, even if it's not one of the traditional funds that we have previously put it into? I mean, did we just hand the commissioners see that and fit wholly?
You start to get, okay, what other funds, can you clarify what their idea is? Because again, grant funds, you start commingling funds. So you're not talking about those. Are you talking about like a 4,000 fund, like a home ruled fund? Okay, yes, you can do that. But again, is it a new fund? Did you make it? Or are you going to make one that's going to be like fit, CVIT? Or like something like that? The ordinance would have to tell you what goes into it.
You answered.
So
Yes.
please don't put it in a grant fund. Advise against that. Did you have an itch or were you asking a question? I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm
She's
sorry.
like, stop calling
Don't
me
look
out.
over there. Don't look over there. Does this make sense? You all look mad now.
I think the thought was really to give everybody more flexibility in it, but when you get down to the counting of it, it changes things, right? So the most flexible it can be is to go into general fund, right? So,
Okay. And we can always revisit this if we have questions. So, okay. This
wait,
was
we didn't talk about the distribution.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just taking you back.
Go ahead. Let's go back.
I gotta
Form
remember
22s.
what we were talking about. So the Form 22s, before you use those, because that's how you told them which fund it goes to, but you're no longer going to be telling them what fund it, because now each unit gets to decide where their money goes. So you do not have to use the Form 22. Well, hi, Nathan. How are you? Sorry. He used to be one of us. He was State Board of Accounts, so every time I see him, I have to say hi. It's also on video, just FYI. So you don't have to use the Form 22 for your distribution. What are you going to put? You can't direct them into what fund to put it in, okay? And nor do you want to, right? You don't want to get with every unit inside your county and decide what their ordinance is and where so you don't have, so the form in and of itself doesn't need to be used, okay? And it was never, again, built for that. It was an easy way to do it, which is why you used it that way. But now, since you're just handing them the lump sum, it's like lit. Right? Okay, did that answer that question? Okay, all right.
Well, the next thing is engagement costs. I know everyone's excited. Hold on. Oh, we're going back. Just kidding.
It's okay, I needed to sit down, stand up. It was like a squat.
I'm Lisa from Hamilton County. So if we're not using the Form 22s anymore, when we have to normally upload the 22s to the gateway, how are we not going to report that to?
So
Yeah.
you're still reporting it.
You didn't have to. So
Yeah,
you never
you
had
didn't
to
have
use
to.
that on the Form 22, so you never had to actually report that. You did it because you used it as a 22. Make sense? So now if you're not using the 22, it doesn't get reported at DLGF.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Okay, we're ready now. Engagement costs. Okay. There's going to be a theme here, because did you guys read the September Bulletin articles? No? This was in there. We wrote a very beautiful article. I would recommend go reading it. We worked very hard on it. But I want to talk about engagement costs because in IC 51143, that statute sets out how audit expenses will come out of settlement, okay, and how those audit costs are going to be paid, okay. So again, it's a very lengthy statute. I'm not going to stand here and read it to you, but that is a frame of reference for any time you guys have questions, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. So I know we have some new auditors in the room, so whenever it comes to rates, so our rates are actually amended annually and submitted to the audit subcommittee for review, okay? Statute breaks down how, like, they kind of look at that and the percentage that those audit costs should be. And there is no change to the upcoming fiscal year, so that's good. So audit costs aren't going to go up for those smaller units because really, again, I don't know how many of you after your last audit, I mean, counties, I don't know if they feel it as much, like the cost of the audits. However, those smaller units are the ones feeling that. And because again, the smaller units are only audited every like 3 to 4 years. Sometimes they're audited every 2 years. However, when they get a 4 or 5 year audit, that can really, those audit costs can hit them and a lot can come out of settlement. And sometimes it takes all of settlement for those units to pay those audit costs. So that's why we wanted to talk about this again. We talked about it in July. Whenever we came and did your guys' district meeting, we answered some questions and this was one of the topics. So we wanted to talk about it again, but our rates are actually advertised on our website. And again, I know sometimes the website, there's a lot of things you can click on, but there is a whole page and I included the rate on there for our rates, okay? Because statute allows us to set a rate, set additional fees such as technology, processing fees, things like that, because our auditors have to be able to, again, they do all this audit work, but how do we process and get an actual report for you guys to use? That takes time, that takes people, that takes resources. So all of these costs are outlined on our website that tell you like how much per hour, how much a full rate cost is, how much the federal rate is, things like that. So this is a very good resource. And the reason I'm talking to you guys about this is because, let's go to the next slide. So when we talk about the engagement costs, there are two things. So there's the statement of engagement costs, and that is, it's sent to each political subdivision. So any entity that we audit, they get a statement of engagement cost. This is not an invoice, because remember, that is taken out of their settlement. So you guys also get the certified statement, okay? So when we say statement of engagement costs and certified statement, they're two different things, okay? So the entity, so let's continue talking about the statement of engagement cost. It's not an invoice. We send it to the political subdivision. They need to be aware of how much their audit is going to cost them, because they probably know how much they're realistically going to get at settlement. And if they see that statement of engagement costs and it might be more than what they're supposed to receive, they need to be aware of that, because that statement of engagement costs includes the number of days that were spent on the audit, daily and hourly rate, and any report processing fees. So it kind of breaks it down for them so that they can kind of see, like, again, this is the number of days that was spent, this is the rate, things like that, but it's not an invoice. So we make them aware that, hey, your next settlement, that's coming out. So they get that, so they're aware, but whenever we talk about the certified statement, this is what you guys get. So it's sent to each county. It's certified by the state examiner, and it includes the amount chargeable to each taxing unit within the county for the audit expenses. So that's what comes out on the Form 22s. That's that audit costs that come out. But that's paid by you guys. The thing that was brought up in July was what happens if what I'm expecting to distribute to them is much less than the certified statement. That's where we're kind of like, okay, don't pay it. Because again, you are reimbursing the general fund at settlement time when you pay those audit costs. So if you pay it for them and it's not enough to cover it, you're paying their bill for them. And I know some counties have done it, and then they have to go back to the unit and say, you owe me money because you didn't have enough to cover it, okay? So this is when we say, okay, we maybe need to change our processes. And I don't know, has any counties encountered something like this to where they've had to change their processes? Okay, and it's probably like, I feel like libraries have kind of been the ones, or special districts, some townships, and most of the time it's those smaller units. I'm not most of the time talking about the big cities or towns or things like that, but we're talking about the really small units that only see us every so many years. So this is what I kind of want to just talk to you guys about, because I don't want you at the county level being out money and having to try and recoup those funds from a smaller entity, okay? Because again, they're not getting a settlement distribution at that point. So it comes to, can they even cover the rest of the costs? That kind of puts you guys in a hard place. So what I want you guys to think about, or maybe a new step to implement, again, I don't know, but you have to try and figure out, has the county collected enough taxes to cover the examination of records? That needs to now be a thought, because it's a possibility, depending on that bill, it might not be enough. So if it is enough, the county can then pay the examination of records, okay? You guys can pay it, there's no difference. However, if it is not enough, the auditor will need to send the certified statement to the taxing unit to pay the cost, okay? So you guys will have to reach out to them and say, hey, you are not going to get enough to pay this. You need to reach out to the State Board of Accounts and set up a payment plan, okay? We have had some questions, and in that Examiner article, we addressed some of them. One of the biggest ones is the question of, what funds am I allowed to take it out of? That's a big one, because remember, whenever you're thinking about it, general fund, can their general fund cover all of the examination of records? It might not. What if they have a debt fund? Do you take it from the debt fund? Here's kind of the worry with that. They're levying for that debt. So if you take their debt, you're taking their debt payments. How is that unit going to pay that? Are there other funds that can cover it, and maybe you leave debt, therefore you know that they can pay the debt costs? So this might be something to where it's like you kind of have to implement another step just to make sure, because again, if you take everything, and especially if majority of it is debt, could that unit even pay those debt payments without those settlement funds? It's a possibility they might not. So you might need to step back, talk to them about it, make them aware. I know it's adding another step, but they're then going to have to pay those costs. If they're like, please don't take those debt payments, send the bill to me and I will set up a payment plan with them and pay it, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to have to pay that, set up a payment plan with us. That way then they get their settlement. They have the money for the debt payments, and then maybe they have money setting aside for rainy day or something like that. The other part of that article, I didn't put it in the slide because, again, most of the time counties' audit costs are covered. You guys have the money to pay those costs. But the article goes into, because, again, you guys are now having to talk with those entities that are going to get that statement of engagement costs. We wrote the article to try and prompt them to be, I don't want them to be reactive, because a lot of them have been reactive in this point, but they need to start being proactive and planning, because again, it's realistic. You know when your last audit was. You know realistically, like, okay, my last couple audits were 4-year audits. I haven't seen the State Board of Accounts in 2-3 years, then they say, hey, I'm going to have an audit coming up. What were my last audit costs? So the article goes into kind of tips for them to try and like say, okay, let's forecast what my possible bill could be. And then the article also goes into if they need help doing that, they can reach out to any of the directors. So any of the directors would be Ricky or I, or over our schools and towns, or schools and townships, cities, towns, special districts, and libraries. There's 2 directors over each of those. So we know that this is a problem, especially for townships. We have a lot of townships reach out to us. Again, if their settlement's not going to cover it, they can reach out to Jonathan or Tanner, and they can walk them through, and we can also pull past bills. We can help them. We can say, hey, your past audit bills have been around this much money or this many days. Because really, to project it, you just need to know the estimated number of days, what our rate's going to be, and you could do a quick calculation, and then you could try and figure that out. So our bulletin article goes into a lot more detail for those smaller units on how to project out what their possible audit costs could be. So I want you guys to know that that's a resource, because you guys are going to be the ones telling them they're going to have to pay it, telling them they're going to have to reach out to us. They might have questions that, again, you're the one on the phone with them. They might say, but how do I figure this out? And you'll be like, hey, here's a resource. Again, you can give them the resources. If they choose to use them, that's great. But you're the one making the call. So again, we wanted to kind of talk about that. Any questions on engagement costs?
I'm coming.
If a taxing unit can't make the payment, can we take it from their CVET, FIT, or LIT? To
I have
pay
no
it
idea.
back?
We have not been asked that yet. That's a good question. Ricky?
I do not think so. I believe the statute specifically says property tax. I'm pretty sure I'll have to specify on that. So, again, if like you don't have enough in there you're not to take it, right? You're to call them and say and then they will call us. They can make a payment plan with us. So those townships and stuff, who are the ones that are going to probably be the hardest hit, the small towns, they can make a payment plan out as long as they pay it by the next audit. Townships are it could be 4 years. So they have a minute to make those payments, okay?
I wrote down your question. It was a good one.
That's a good question. That was a very good question, by the way. I like that.
So is there any way that should we let you guys know when we send the bill to the town, like ours is townships, when I send that bill to the townships because there's not going to be enough collected, that that I send it to them, to connect everything? What if they don't get back with you guys, I'm saying, and the bill's never paid?
No, true. And I don't think we've had that happen yet, have we?
We haven't. I don't know a great way to do that because we don't handle the bills, right? So when you let us know, then we have to go find in our department who does all of the billing, and it becomes more complicated. So what I would suggest is that you notify your unit, right? Hey, we're not going to have enough to pay the bill. Mm-hmm. You need to contact State Board of Accounts. You document what you did and you put it aside, because if it doesn't get paid, they will call you first and you can say, hey, I called them 2 weeks ago and told them that they weren't going to get enough at settlement. They should have contacted you. And then our billing people can contact. I just hate to put us in the middle of it because then you're playing that whole game, right? Like I would rather our accounts receivable.
Several more taxing units, I'm afraid our taxing units would not contact you guys. It would just drop.
We will find them.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, because again, we have to pay our bills too. So from our perspective, if we don't receive those, most likely our billing will be reaching out to you. And at that point, I'd say exactly what Ricky said. Hey, I talked to them on this date. Just make sure you document it so that whenever someone does call and ask why those audit costs haven't been paid, you can say, I talked with so-and-so on this date. They were to contact you. And you could then give them the information to our billing because then they're going to contact them.
That's right.
So,
and just remember, you guys work for the locals, right? Money's great, right? You guys have all the money in the world. Right? We work for the state. Okay? So we're going to be contacting you to get our bills paid.
yeah.
So I usually don't know how much a unit is going to have until settlement time. And the bills are due within 10, 15 days or whatever. That's usually when we pay it. So how are we gonna?
And this is what we talked about in July, and I'm not sure if you were there, but in their tax and billing system, there should be a way to estimate that, because again, you're collecting information, so it's whether a question to the treasurer, have we received enough? So there might need to be more communication in that aspect before you pay the bill. So that's why we talk about, you might have to modify your process to say, are we getting everything? So,
Because I know a lot of times my taxing unit's like, why are you withholding? Like, I'll take stuff out that I've already paid in the spring. They're like, they wait till the fall. And I'm like, fall settlement's a lot less than spring settlement, especially we get a lot of people pay both their taxes in the spring. So,
Yeah. And just think about it, however you do an advance. So you've got something in there and able to advance them dollars to kind of know, you won't know exact, right, what you're going to collect. There's no way for you to know exactly, but you should have an estimate. We've collected this amount, it's close, and even if it's close and you're thinking, this could go either way, that might be a conversation you need to have with that other unit and say, I just don't know I can cover it. I really don't know.
yeah.
Well, don't put your head down. Well, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so lit, fit, and CVET are not eligible. But excise tax is distributed and allocated with property tax. Is it eligible?
I need to go pull the statute, but
We'd
I
have to
believe
look
it
at
is. I
that.
believe it's the settlement distribution,
Yeah.
which is both. I just need to clarify that, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's what the statute says.
Yeah. Oh, Ricky, right behind you, and I think there's one in.
I just have to keep rotating.
I just want to check, do we have to appropriate to pay that exam of records?
No.
Or can we pay it from
You-
unappropriated?
No, you can just pay it.
Okay.
Thought I saw a hand.
Oh, right back there.
This is a very big room. I know, that might be disastrous.
I just wanted you to walk all the way over here. No, this really isn't a question. It was kind of a little bit of a piggyback answer, maybe, for those of you wondering how to find that amount, because I have that same question. I was thinking this might be an option, but a fake advanced draw. If you're walking through those same steps for an advanced draw, I think you would be able to find out that amount.
That's a
that
good
way.
idea.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. It's always a good topic. Well, I only have 2 minutes, and we need to change the pan of the camera again. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say my last 2 slides. DLGF, if you finish early, I'm just going to come back up. Okay? Okay. And we'll keep everybody on time. So if you guys want to come up here, we're going to have the camera change.